Hello. I'm Sunil Bhatt, and I'm the Associate Partner for Digital Financial Services at MicroSave Consulting, or MSC. So MSC is a boutique financial inclusion consulting firm with more than 11 offices across the globe. And we have been operating for more than 2 decades, and I've extensively worked in projects in Asia as well as Africa. So we largely work with both public as well as private players in digital financial services, MSME, fintech, agriculture, and policy. So today I'm delighted to record this session for the Financial Inclusion Week 2022. So now in its 8th year, the Financial Inclusion Week is a forum for exchanging ideas, research, and perspectives from around the world. And I feel that this is a great forum for the cross-pollination of ideas. My best wishes to the Center for Financial Inclusion, which convenes the Financial Inclusion Week. So, with support from the MetLife Foundation, MSC has started work on a project to support women-led enterprises. So, this project will run in 3 countries, India, Nepal, and Vietnam. We are partnering with anchor institutions in these countries so that we can facilitate these women-led businesses to perform better. So today we have representatives from 2 of our anchor partners, one from Vietnam and one from Nepal, who will be sharing their experiences of working with women businesses during and post-COVID. So the topic for today is, has the development community done enough to support our women entrepreneurs in a post-COVID world? So from Vietnam, I'm joined by Hien Tu, who's the founder of WISE. WISE stands for Women's Initiative for Startups and Entrepreneurship. So WISE is a non-profit organization which supports women-led startups and businesses in Vietnam. WISE offers all-rounded business development support for women, including capacity building, business incubation services, improving access to finance, providing business mentoring, and so on. So till date, WISE has provided capacity building to over 15,000 women SMEs, which includes ethnic minorities as well. So Hien Tu is the founder and the CEO of WISE. And since 2017, she has led the development of WISE program portfolio to support female-led businesses in Vietnam by offering business-related support, training, and access to finance. So prior to this role, Hien was the country manager for the Mekong Business Initiative, a program supported by the Asian Development Bank and the Government of Australia. So welcome, Hien, to this discussion.
Hello, Sunil, and thank you for inviting me to this session.
Yeah, sure. From Nepal, I'm joined by Ms. Suesha Stapit, who is the Executive Director of FWEAN. So FWEAN stands for Federation of Women Entrepreneurs Association of Nepal. And Suesha has an experience of more than 10 years working in the space of social entrepreneurship in Nepal as well as abroad. So FWEAN is a central body of WEAN chapters, which was established in 1989, and it looks at establishing subsidiary chapters, WEAN chapters. They have their presence in almost all the 74 districts in Nepal, and involving supporting more than 10% of the 500,000 self-employed businesses in Nepal. So based in Kathmandu, FWEAN is a focal point of interaction, not only with the government, but also with different national and international women organizations. So welcome, Suesha, to this conversation on women businesses. And thank you for making time.
Thank you, Sunil. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, sure. So let's begin. So we know that women entrepreneurs face greater number of challenges as compared to male entrepreneurs, and this is a largely established fact, and it has been described extensively in many of the research papers. So I mean, if you look at the reports from UN Women, I mean, they indicate multiple reasons for this. It could be, I mean, from gender stereotypes to a lack of access to finance, to complex societal threats like poverty, could be political instability, limited participation of women in networks, uncertainty, and a range of barriers which could prevent women from doing businesses in a very profitable manner. So if you look at COVID itself, right, till now, more than 16 trillion US dollars have been pumped in by different governments into the global economy. A large part of it has gone towards the vaccine, but a significant portion has gone towards reviving the business itself, right? And if you see the impact that it has made on women businesses, it has been less as compared to businesses run by males, right? So if I may start from Ian, so Ian, can you begin by sharing some of the challenges which women entrepreneurs face in general in Vietnam, and also how these challenges aggravated in the wake of COVID-19? So if you look at the report from the Cherry Blair Foundation, right, it was a research that was conducted across 32 countries. And nearly 1/10 of the women entrepreneurs specifically mentioned as COVID-19 as one of the single greatest challenge that they had ever faced in their business lives, right? So just wanted to understand from the Vietnam perspective, what were some of the challenges which these women entrepreneurs faced?
Thank you, Sunil, for the introduction. And you have rightly pointed out the key challenges faced women-led SMEs even before COVID, and which are also aggravated during the COVID period. So as you already mentioned, there are quite a number of research and studies to try to understand the key challenges facing women-led SMEs in general. And as you already named a few of them, like access to finance, access to skills, and like the juggling between work and life, and burdens, and also issues like gender-related bias and prejudice, etc. But in Vietnam, there are specific studies done by, for example, IFCs, and also part of the Cherry Blair Foundation research you mentioned, also have part of it mentioning about Vietnam. And the key challenges for Vietnamese women-led SMEs include, without specific orders, but they include access to finance, for sure. The second biggest one is also access to network. So we have seen that access to network and markets in general, it's considered one of the big challenges for women. So as a businesswoman, they need to sell products, they need to access to markets, and this is always mentioned as the top priority for women-led SMEs when they mention what are the biggest challenge for you. You know, I need to be able to sell my goods and services. The third one is really about the access to updated skills and capacity. As the economy grows quickly and technology advances, it is important for women to get updated in terms of the skills and capacity to really cope with the new needs and the new market trends. So whether they will be able or have the resources or have the time to get updated with capacity building and skills, this is really another challenge. Last, but not least, which is not the exhaustive list, I've just mentioned the four of them, but one of the biggest one and overwhelming is really balance work and life, because by social norms, women are still considered those who have to take care the main carer of the family, so take care of the family, of the children, of the elderly, etc. So therefore, they will have a much less time compared with their male peers to do business. So those are the four key areas. And during the COVID, this has been seen as becoming more and more serious, especially the last ones I mentioned, juggling between work and life. Because during the COVID time, with the social distancing, children stay at home, families at home, they have to really take care of the children, take care of their studies, mental health, everything, while still have to take care of the business together with the mental health of their team as well. So this is actually not, just double the work, but triple, quadruple the burden for women. And this is considered one of the biggest challenge. And of course, with the disruption that brought about by COVID, the market has been disrupted, the supply chain has been disrupted. They cannot sell the goods through the traditional markets or channels. So that's why cash flow is a big issue, and therefore finance is a big challenge for them. And also with the new situation, that poses new needs for women to get new skills, especially the digital skills, whether they will be able to pivot their business to use new way, new approach to do business, to sell goods. So this is another issue for women, because women tend to be considered left behind men in terms of using technology, especially in these digital areas. So I will name those are the key challenges of women business, women-led SMEs before, during, and even after COVID.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I think you make a lot of very important points, and I think it would also resonate. I mean, to challenges in Nepal as well. I'm sure Suesha would also be thinking of the same. Access to finance networks, because at least from the Indian perspective, I can say that all of these are like bang on, like issues with respect to finance. Access to finance has always been there, right? Like even before, during COVID, it kind of aggravated, and even now. And a lot of programs which are run by the government did not reach women beneficiaries. I think there was a gap there as well. And I think network also is very important, and that's why a program where we are working with MetLife Foundation, I think we are trying to ensure that women get access to network, so that they are able to sell their produce as well as buy products from suppliers at better rates. Work-life balance was a very interesting point. I think, especially for working women, I think it makes a lot of sense. And since people were also working out of their homes, I think this put a greater onus on the lady. And technology, I think, is one of the most important things. And a lot of them were not able to use it effectively because of different reasons. MicroSave research, which was conducted for LMI segments as well as MSME businesses, I mean, we came out with some of the results which said that literacy was one of the major factors because of which women could not use technology very effectively. It needed a little bit of hand-holding. Though COVID provided that push, and people were anyways using apps, digital apps, which was largely for entertainment purpose. But a lot of those became tools for businesses as well. Like WhatsApp is a classic example in the Indian scenario, and also in some other countries as well. So thank you for your response. With that, I move to Suesha. Suesha, you closely work with the WIN chapters in Nepal, and you work with more than 3,000 registered women businesses in Nepal. So if you look at the Nepal scenario itself, we have close to 1.3 million businesses, right? And out of that, 1/5 of them are registered businesses. And if you just pick registered businesses, again, 1/5 of them are run by women, right? And so you see the number of businesses, it's quite less. So you and being a part of FWIN, we have a lot of experience of working with these registered businesses. So can you also bring in some light on what was their plight during COVID and even now after COVID? So what are some of the challenges that these businesses have been facing?
Yeah, so Hien beautifully summarized most of the challenges that women entrepreneurs also all across Nepal have faced. So to give some examples related to those, one of them is about the supply chain and how to pivot as quickly as we needed to during COVID. So one very specific example is of a woman entrepreneur who grows a specific kind of chili that's really spicy. And she had a whole bunch of it, but due to COVID, she couldn't actually take it to the market or send it to the next person along the line. And so it actually went to waste. When we do provide trainings on how to process certain vegetables or chilies, etc., into pickles. But because the trainings couldn't happen quickly enough and she didn't have that knowledge to be able to process that, it couldn't be, we couldn't have value addition to the products that were already available and then maybe sold 2 months down the line, because that way it could have been preserved. So that was one example of how time was of the essence and it had to move really quickly. So we are taking a more proactive approach to not just COVID, but any kind of disaster, because in the past, when we talked about disasters, it could be something like maybe fire that a particular business faces, or it could be flooding, which is more on an annual basis, you know. And so now we're taking a more proactive approach of preparing in advance. So this could include, you know, how businesses typically make business plans. We're also working with women entrepreneurs to make business continuity plans in preparation for disasters. And this could include alternative processing. It could include extra savings for times of disaster. This could also include insurance and various other factors that many women entrepreneurs and even traditional businesses really don't necessarily consider in advance of disasters occurring. So that's a huge change for us in how we're strategizing in terms of DRR. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Suesha, for that. When you see the COVID itself, right? There was a lot of support which came from governments in many of the developing countries, and largely the focus was on small businesses, because you pick up any developing country. These small businesses are majorly the job creators and also, like, you know, major contributors to the GDP as well. So if you look at developing countries like India, Nepal, Vietnam, so all of these, Bangladesh, so I think anywhere between 15 to 25%, that's the contribution to the GDP, depending on the country. So that ways, I think they are the engines in a way of the economy, right? And the support from government came out in different forms. It came out in the form of cash dole-outs, cash transfers, credit guarantee schemes, which pushed banks and NBFCs to lend to smaller businesses, reduced cost of borrowing, and so on, right? And this was largely done when the COVID phase was ongoing. A lot of smaller businesses could not get the benefits, because as COVID was going on, we could see a lot of reports came out from development agencies, a lot of reports which came out from think tanks, which says that a lot of benefits were accruing only to the larger businesses. And when it came to the smaller businesses, the unregistered ones, which account for more than 90% of the total MSMEs in developing countries, these benefits could not largely accrue. And then there were multiple reasons for that as well. And MSC also conducted a lot of researches on LMI segments, that is low and middle income segments, and MSMEs in different countries, in about 6 to 7 countries. And MSC research kind of brought out the fact that a lot of women-led businesses face severe liquidity constraints. Many of them were forced to shut shop. A lot of them were denied loans from formal financial institutions. Many of them had to depend on their own savings as well as informal sources. So borrowing costs kind of hit the roof, right? And also, if you look at the report from UN Women and UNDP, which analyzed over 3,100 policy measures in about 219 countries across the globe from a gender perspective, right? So only 13% of these social protection measures were targeted towards women. So, I mean, despite women forming about 45 to 50% of the population and contributing a significant chunk to the MSMEs, only 13% of the measures were prioritized towards women. So that's not a very encouraging number, right? So now when you look at the reconstruction phase of COVID, Here, the question to you is, I mean, depending on your understanding of the donor side as well of this development market. So what type of programs or support do women enterprises need at this stage, right? And what should international donors be sort of concentrating on? What kind of facilities or what kind of support would help them to kind of stand on their feet? Because these are very critical times. The kind of support which came in the form of cash transfer programs during COVID may not be applicable now. So what is your view on this?
Thank you, Sunil. You have briefed a very comprehensive picture about the support that international programs, governments have provided to the business community in general and to the women entrepreneurs in particular during the COVID. So we have to acknowledge that there have been a lot of efforts to support women entrepreneurs in particular. So just with WISE, during the in the past 2 years, we've been implementing programs to target the support to women entrepreneurs, especially focusing on improving access to finance and also building the digital capacity for women entrepreneurs. Those are the two challenges for women during the pandemic period. But whether this is enough or not, we can't say that any support will be enough, because otherwise there won't be any gender gaps in the entrepreneurship world anymore. I think that the effort has been in the right direction, but much more needs to be done. One of the most important things is really to identify the needs of the particular groups that we target, because women entrepreneurs is a big community with a very diverse span of different demands. So capacity, in terms of capacity, different groups of women entrepreneurs have different capacity gaps, and they need to be approached or supported in different forms. So one of the things I think that is important, that once we have identified rightly the big themes of support, for example, this is about capacity building, this is about training on digital skills, or this is about improving access to finance by providing interest rate, interest rate support, something like that. It needs to be further drilled down into specific activities targeting specific groups, and try to avoid the one-size-fits-all approach. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult to really get the impacts that we want if we adopt the one-size-fits-all approach. For specific women, for specific group of women entrepreneurs, they would need to build capacity in a more advanced level. Some may need to get support just to get on an online e-commerce platform to be able to sell their products. The same example that Saoirse has mentioned earlier about the chili producers. So, something can be very simple but deliver immediate impact. Some can really be at a more advanced level that really build the capacity of women to be able to use technology, to adopt technology to kind of transform their business model, something like that. Similarly, even with the access to finance support programs during the COVID and even after the COVID, there continue programs by governments, by international donors to provide low interest rate support to women. But it needs to be delivered in a way that is easy to access. Women also need to be supported to be able to use the loans effectively, so that they can really get the impacts that the government and the donors expect. So otherwise even if they are giving the loans, but then the use of the loan is not in the most effective way, then we can't get what we want from the beginning. So what I want to emphasize here is really to get a very deep and thorough analysis about the needs of specific groups, and then design the support programs to really being tailor-made for that particular groups. So be specific in the expectation, be specific in the design, and then have a very thorough mechanism of monitoring and adjustment during the implementation, because things change so fast. During the COVID, after the COVID, things change so fast, and try not to kind of duplicate the efforts, and not getting the result we want. In brief, I think that there are needs there are much more to be done, and there need to be a very kind of close cooperation between the international expertise and knowledge and the local insights. So for example, programs need to really understand the needs of the local women entrepreneurs with the kind of support and inputs from the local partners, exactly the way that MSC and WISE are doing at the moment in Vietnam. So you bring in the international experience and the best practices elsewhere, and we bring in the understanding about our local women, what the women needs, and then the implementation needs to really be grounded on the field. This is an important thing. In terms of the activities, what we've been doing over the past 2 years have shown the effectiveness, including the following. First, continue to focus on digitalization. So really training, capacity building on digital skills, and help women to really understand and use the digital skills to cope with the new market trends. The second, I think that important is support to market access using digital platform. So again, with the digital skills that build, women entrepreneurs need to be supported so that they can access to the new markets using digital platforms, for example. Business counseling is something that we have proved to be successful in Vietnam, because with the new market trends, there are new requirements for women entrepreneurs to apprehend, and therefore business counseling will provide them with immediate understanding about what is missing in their current business model, so how they can pivot. So this is one of the programs we are implementing with the support of the Asian Development Bank under the WIFI initiative, Women Financing Initiative. So that's just some example I want to share from the work that WISE is doing here in Vietnam.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Hien, for these points. So I think you make a very important points, and the most important one is to me was understand the needs of specific groups of women and sort of customize the requirement, and not have a sort of a cookie cutter approach wherein you design one thing for one segment of women and then you try to implement it across board. That may have a kind of limited success. That's I think one of the key points, and I think focus on digitization, market access, use of technology. So I think use of technology, I think, has seen a lot of impetus across multiple countries, right, and in Vietnam as well, where a lot of women have used e-commerce platforms, and also the e-commerce platforms have also simplified and also supported women and also other types of entrepreneurs to kind of get access to larger markets. Because during the COVID period, one of the things that we saw was also decreased spending, and that was also due to a host of other factors. People were not going out, and then they were mostly relying on online platforms. So if there is no visibility for women on these platforms, they end up not selling their goods or products. So I think that's also a very important thing, and I think going ahead, a lot of focus will be on this. And in India, we have already started seeing a lot of fintechs and startups which have come up, which are doing like a complete end-to-end online facilitation for businesses to kind of sell their products. So great points. So I'll come to some of these points later here. Thank you. Moving to Swesha. Swesha, you work closely with the WEAN chapters in Nepal, and as you know, the onslaught of COVID has been very detrimental to many of the women-led businesses. The operational costs of businesses went up, their profitability fell, the supply chains were disrupted big time, and enterprises had to pick up goods from their suppliers and also pay for the transportation as well. That reduced their profitability, their margins. There was a lot of attrition as well, both willful and non-willful. And also enterprises experienced higher bad debts. Their operational costs also increased. While things are slowly getting back to normal, on the demand side we still see stress, and maybe it will take some more time to kind of pick up. And people are also banking big time on festival times as well for demand. The income of businesses also declined due to reduced footfall, lower customer demand, and also the reduced purchasing power of customers. On the supply side, there were other factors as well, like decline in income, including disruptions of supply chain, limited operating hours of businesses affected by lockdowns, and other restrictions in movement. A lot of businesses also want to adopt technology, as Hian was also alluding to. So can you just focus a little bit more on what kind of support you provided to businesses in Nepal? Considering the fact that the geographical terrain of Nepal is such that what happens in the valley may not really happen in the hills up there because of infrastructure challenges as well. So it would be quite challenging is what my guess would be. So if you could throw a little bit light on how did you support your women entrepreneurs, and what kind of requests are you getting currently, like now that the COVID onslaught has kind of reduced? So are the requests which are coming from women entrepreneurs slightly different as they used to be during the COVID time? So what are your views?
Yeah. So in terms of the support that FWIN provided during COVID, it was very online heavy. And like Hian mentioned, we cater to a whole range of women entrepreneurs. So the trainings went from anywhere from how to create an email account and how to use Zoom to more advanced in terms of how to log on to various e-commerce sites, and labeling and packaging adapted to online digital marketing, which included photography as well. So, these new skill sets that were being taught online. So there was dual learning, one in terms of how to actually use the technology, and the other aspect of the business skills related to online marketing. So, and then the third element was also in terms of mindfulness and well-being as an individual and as part of a family. And so we focused on that as well. So those were the three main components of the various trainings that we ran. And by the end, by the end of these trainings, we actually had an online expo. So one of the major flagship events that FWIN has is our annual International Women's Trade Expo. And in 2021, we managed to do it virtually. So that was a huge accomplishment. As far as I'm aware, it's one of the first that was happening in Nepal. And we had over 86,000 clicks at the 84 stalls. So this was a completely new experience, even for people in Kathmandu, let alone all the women entrepreneurs across the various districts, to be able to have a stall online and showcase their products. So it was a very productive time in that regard, that we were trying new things. And this is an opportunity for women entrepreneurs to build on those skills that they've learned throughout COVID to really transform. However, there is, how people say there's the new normal. I would say that the current demand is still physical, though. if it permits, people's preference is to still have physical interactions and physical trainings and physical expos. And actually, we had our physical expo just in August, and that was incredible because we had over 38 WIN chapters, as well as 218 exhibitors join the expo with 40,000 visitors, and so seeing people in person and hearing their demands and needs and exploring what opportunities lay ahead in terms of maybe accelerating their business or even looking towards international trade, there is that push for oh, come to our district to do the trainings, so there's that dual element of, yes, the capacity in digitalization has increased, and how can we leverage that? And that's what we're really interested in terms of digital financial literacy, whether you're talking about digital transactions or even digital loans potentially, so tapping into innovation, like you were mentioning about the fintechs in India, like how can we collaborate with other ecosystem players to really move that process along, in terms of digitalization financially as well as in terms of marketing. But there's also the element of, no, we want physical marketing opportunities and physical training opportunities to really connect with people and do the networking. So it's both an opportunity as well as a little bit of a let's go back to what we know, and that works. So let's keep doing that as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Suresha. And I had the good luck of visiting the offline expo in August this year. And for me, it was a great experience, actually. And as you said, more than 38 odd Wien chapters had put in their stalls. And we could interact with almost all of them. And all of them were predominantly run by women. And what I could say was, the infinite zeal which the entrepreneurs had towards their business, and also to make their business grow and take it to the next level. Because each one of them with whom we interacted wanted was kind of brimming with ideas in terms of how to take my product beyond this district or beyond even Nepal. A lot of them, I met a lot of them who had who were selling their products in India, in the Middle East, in Europe, and a lot of them are looking for support, and the kind of support which they got from Wien chapters and from FWIN, I think they spoke highly of it, and and they also spoke how COVID had kind of dented their business, how they had lost customers, and how some of them also were keen to sign up for e-commerce platforms like the popular ones which you have in Nepal, Tulo.com, Sasto Deal, Daraz, and other ones. I think there are more than a dozen ones which are operating in Nepal. But they also told the fact that a lot of these e-commerce platforms are focused on the in cities only, or to be specific, in Kathmandu only, and how they were operating in the hinterlands, in the northern part of Nepal, in the extreme west side of Nepal, where access of infrastructure was low, and how they could not be a part of this digital bandwagon. And I think and if you are able to kind of support these businesses, I'm sure that they can even spread their wings farther and sell their products to many more areas. Because if you look at the quality of products, they were like quite great as compared to, or even better than some of our branded products.
So just to add to that, Sunil, actually, we have our in-house e-commerce site called winbiz.com.nt. And the idea behind that, and also the future technology like apps that we're developing, is that these could be stepping stones, especially like habit making for the women entrepreneurs. So for example, it might be asking too much for somebody from like far east or far west Nepal to join daraz.com just because of the sheer volume that they would have to meet. But they can actually sign up on our e-commerce platform and learn how to handle the logistics from their side. We handle the majority of the logistics, but in terms of how to send it to our place so that we can then forward it to the customer, and how they can price it, and in terms of the quality and packaging so that it reaches us safely, so it's kind of like habit making, so that once they reach a certain level, they can then join the bigger platforms and take off. As you
no, I think that's a great thing, because we need to, I think, give that little push in terms of helping them get on any one platform and try it out for themselves. So once they are convinced, once they are convinced that they can sell faster and they can make better profits, get connected to larger customer base, I think they will pick it up on their own going ahead in future, right? So thanks, Suesha, for that. So coming to Hien, the last question to you. And this will be largely focused on the kind of support that we can give to these women enterprises, Hien. As you know, we are working with you closely on this MetLife Women-led business program, and it has its focus on 4 pillars. And you beautifully spoke of all these areas while answering the previous question. So focus on training and capacity building, focus on access to finance, a focus on access to creating better market linkages, and developing a vibrant community of practice. So a Boston Consulting Group report, showed that US dollars 5 trillion can be added to the global economy if we are able to address the gender gap in entrepreneurship, right? So that's the kind of potential that we have, and almost all of the developing nations are kind of facing this gender gap with respect to entrepreneurship. And the whole purpose behind working with partners such as yourself is to see how, by working closely in these 4 areas, in these 4 pillars, we can sort of bring out this untapped potential of women entrepreneurs and also rejuvenate their business. So digging a little bit deeper, Hien, would you like to add some of the elements of support which we can build in under these 4 pillars, and specifically with respect to community of practice, where essentially we kind of bring in experts, wherein we bring some experienced entrepreneurs to coach these women entrepreneurs, and a lot of it being done digital, so that you can also reduce your costs. So just wanted to get your thoughts on these 4 pillars here.
I think, yes, it's great news that MetLife has been designed to include all the key 4 areas that has been identified as the challenges for women entrepreneurs, especially in Vietnam and of course in Nepal and in India. So I would really just need to reiterate that the need to, in terms of capacity building, is the need about to focus even more on the digital side. So the digital, if you are designing programs to build capacity for women, it should include an element on digital, both in terms of the content that it will be training, and also in terms of the form of training. So now, using different digital channels, platforms to provide trainings for easy access anytime, anywhere for women is very important. So I agree with Suesha that people still prefer the offline interaction. They prefer offline training, but also the offline still have certain constraints. So if you want to build capacity, you should really need to make it accessible online. In conjunction with here and there offline events to really build the community and strengthen the interaction. But online channels to provide trainings is the best way to make sure that everyone can access the content everywhere. So the content should be delivered using the digital platform, and also the content should be about the digital skills. So that's the first one on the capacity building that I want to stress, that the MetLife should really need to focus in. On the access to finance pillar, I think that it's important to prioritize the current unbanked women entrepreneurs, or the unbanked women, so that we can identify alternative financing solutions so that they can really have access to finance. If the banks are still unable to serve that segment of clients, so what about the MFI or the fintech can step in to provide different financial solutions so that women can really access to the needed finance to start and grow their business. So that's the pillar on the access to finance. On the access to market linkages, I think that it's important to help women to identify new way to access new market. And I've mentioned earlier, this is really about the access to different digital marketplace, to different way to be linked to the supply chain. Actually, the digital areas provide a lot of possible pathway for women to really access to the export market, for example. And WISE is currently supporting that kind of linkage by really providing a marketplace or a platform for women, for small, micro and small business in Vietnam to export to Europe. Very kind of demanding market, but it is being made possible with the technology. And finally, you are rightly mentioned that building a community of practice is very important and has very important value in really inspiring, motivating, supporting women in their kind of difficult business journey. So for WISE, we are currently have a community of over 20,000 women in business, and we constantly share information, updated resources, and really help them to link to each other so that they can have a peer exchange, which is very important for women. They can exchange, a lot of things, experience, resources, opportunities, and also support each other just mentally, and different way to kind of how to juggle between work and life and family, etc. So those, I think, that the right 4 pillars, but need to be deep dive further so that we can have activities that really meet the needs of specific groups of women.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Hien. I think your last point on community of practices is like very, very pertinent. And we have seen this play out in other markets as well, where if an experienced entrepreneur like speaks about his or her journey to a group of other entrepreneurs, it makes a lot of impact rather than an external person coming and kind of teaching. Even that's better. But then when they see one of their own having gone through a journey and then experienced what they have experienced and also have tasted success, I think there is a larger probability that women or entrepreneurs would like to follow their advice. So that is something I think we have a key focus on in this project as well, and we would like to build that in all the 3 countries going forward. So thanks a lot for those thoughts. Suesha, coming to you one final time, and I think similar questions, right? Now that when you have provided these kind of supports to your women entrepreneurs as part of your FIN capacity building programs, now under these 4 pillars of training, access to finance, market linkage, and community of practice, what do you think are some of the elements which can be provided so that they help entrepreneurs in Nepal, considering the fact, considering the kind of challenges which they are going through post-COVID?
So if we're looking at the women entrepreneurs and the services provided directly to them, I think there is the element of need-based and demand-based, right? Like demand is what they say they need, and that's the kind of services that we provide, and that's very useful. But also there's need-based, and sometimes that's not the same as demand. So let me give you an example. We have a lot of women entrepreneurs who want to look outside of Nepal for market linkages and start exporting. And one of the very basic things that need to happen before that is related to intellectual property and how are they going to protect their brand as well as the production process, because a lot of it is like handicraft, traditional knowledge, heirloom products, and so I would say majority of our women entrepreneurs simply don't know about what they need to do regarding intellectual property protection. And so that's a need-based training that we're starting to provide, because it's better to start as a smaller organization than to, you know, grow big and then suddenly have to fight lawsuits and not have the legal backing that you would need, you know. And so we're considering the various aspects and the various angles related to the growth of a business and what kind of trainings we can provide. And that's very women entrepreneurs focused and what they can do. But as a federation, we also take it as our responsibility to really work in the ecosystem and to build the ecosystem. So for example, if you're talking about access to finance, one of the pillars, we want to work with women entrepreneurs and increase their access to finance, whether it's through digitalization or making the process easier in some way. But it's also very much our responsibility to build better relationships with banks and make sure that they're making the process easier, not just for our members, but for all women entrepreneurs that come through their door. So whether that's more Jessie aware training and having a Jessie help desk, or, you know, getting them to focus more on Jessie friendly service providing. And similarly, it's also our responsibility to work with the various ministries to make sure that the policies align with that, you know. And so our role for each of the pillars is to really build the ecosystem, working with various stakeholders, including the development sector, and make sure that everybody is in alignment towards the same direction that we're going in. So if we're talking about digitalization, we need to work from policies to the technologies that the private sector makes to the actual users, the women entrepreneurs, and how to make it easier for them and make sure that it's all in the right direction. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Suresha. I think both of you, both Hien and you, have made this access to finance, have made points on that. So I think that's going to be a very, very critical point, because credit happens to be kind of one of the, you know, STEM areas for entrepreneurs if business has to go on. And you know, based on some of the discussions that we had in Nepal when we were there with the banks, one of the movements which needs to happen is a movement from a completely collateral based kind of a lending to a cash flow based kind of a lending. So that's also some of the was also part of some of the discussions that we had, and it's happening in multiple countries where fintechs are kind of driving it, and looking at the transaction data of the customer and also the alternate data of the customer, providing her loans rather than just depending on the collateral. So I think that's also something which can help them get credit quicker and faster, in you know, in addition to the other things that you have been mentioning. So if you look at you know, the World Bank research itself, which was conducted with around 45,000 odd businesses in 49 countries, it indicated that the impact of COVID was very disproportionate on women businesses, and women-led businesses were 2 percentage points behind their male businesses in getting benefits from largely the government-run programs, right? So there also we saw that there was a lot of strain, and we hope that with this you know, upcoming MetLife program in both these countries, we hope that we are able to kind of support women businesses. And I would also like to, you know, add a quote of Dr. Muhammad Yunus, who sort of championed the effort of supporting women businesses through microfinance largely. And he said, quote, each of us has much more hidden inside us than we have had a chance to explore. Unless we create an environment that enables us to discover the limits of potential, we will never know what we have inside of us, unquote. So that essentially means that, you know, a lot of, you know, women businesses have a lot of potential, but then they also look at the right type of support. And institutions like WISE and FWIN, I think, are at the fulcrum of providing these kind of support to these women businesses and help them to wade through these tough times. With this, I would like to thank both Suesha and Hian for participating in this very important discussion. And thank you very much. Hope we are able to support our women businesses further. Thank you for joining me. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
Thank you.